Well, I'll send it again.
I'll double check again. No, I didn't see it. I didn't, but that doesn't mean.
Okay.
I'll look again.
I'll send it
Sorry,
again.
no, I didn't see it.
He's got a filter, emails go to junk.
I did ask Pat,
Oh, good,
and Pat said he was interested.
good,
He
good,
said,
good.
we're interested. He said,
Yeah.
the trails need help, but it's physically possible.
They had an easement.
Yeah, I asked Jen. Okay, folks, we're gonna get started here. All right, let's call the meeting to order. It's 6:31. John or Heather, you want to take a roll call, please?
Tom?
Here.
Sandy?
Here?
Lynn?
Here.
Larry?
Here.
Dean?
Here.
Des?
Here.
Al?
Here. Okay, folks, we've got three projects on the agenda. We've got a minor subdivision for review. The second one, we have Dandy Mart. We're going to be talking about the signage. And the third one is Village Solar. And it appears we have some discussion on, I believe it's stormwater and modification of the site plan. So let's get started, and we'll begin with Armstrong Road. Is anyone here? Yep, you want to come up and have a seat? And you want to give your name real quickly?
Harry Silk.
Okay, hi. Okay, let's get started, folks. I was looking this over. I noticed some errors or corrections on the environmental form. Did we discuss this last time?
Yeah.
I believe it is.
All right,
Yeah.
so I guess it just didn't get corrected. So, again, 4, that should say rural and agriculture, correct? And then there was a question, I think last time Dean had on the acreage, wasn't that correct, Dean? Was that you?
I don't recall.
The total acreage, 9.92, should be in that 3 box. And,
Under C, is that what you're saying?
yeah, 3C.
Yeah.
And then another one I noticed, on 11, it says, if no method of wastewater, so that just should say, I believe, if development occurs, it'll be a private septic, right, in that box. Then the one box on 12B, on the State Historic Preservation Office, it's checked yes. John, do you want to expand on that for us?
Sure. So it's whether or not it is adjacent to any areas of archaeological sensitivity. So, as I explained to you during the last meeting, the State Office of Historic Preservation just designates a large buffer area, okay, for any areas that have been found previously. So I went onto their website and I printed out a map for you folks, and you can see that just the absolute barest corner of this project, not even an area likely to be disturbed, just along the road, falls within that buffer zone. I think it's probably a safe bet that we don't need to be concerned with archaeological findings in that area. It's probably right of way as it is.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything else on that. And then below that, there was the wetland question. I forgot what happened last time on that. It's checked yes.
And again, that's just because it comes up on adjacent areas.
Okay, so again, we had no concern with that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Anyone else have any concerns on that, on this form?
So the acreage is 9.93, not 9.92, or is it 9.92, not 9.93?
What?
Because the agricultural data statement says 9.93, and then the environmental form says 9.92. Okay, so the forms are on here.
And so, John, we have to open this up, is that correct, for?
Yes, this is a public hearing.
Okay, so let's go ahead and motion. Motion. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we've got that open. So, We can talk about the short form, is that correct, John, while we've got this open?
Yeah.
Okay, anyone volunteer to read the part two? You got a volunteer?
I can read it.
All right, go ahead, Tom.
Al,
Oh,
shouldn't we ask if there's anybody here?
Yeah, I was gonna do it after we read this, or should we do it
Okay.
first? It's up
You should do it first, Al.
Okay.
Because if anybody wants to comment, you may want to take that into.
in consideration of the form. Okay, so any comments from the public out there concerning this project? Okay, go ahead then, Tom.
1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No?
No. 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land?
No.
3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? 7, will the proposed action impact existing A, public-private water supplies?
No.
B, public-private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, for example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
No.
10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
And 11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Okay, let's go ahead and close the meeting then, I guess. Motion?
Second.
The public hearing?
Yeah.
Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right. So I guess next, John, we're going to go ahead and determine whether there's a negative, no negative impact, and we're going to approve the resolution all in one vote. Is that correct?
If there is a draft motion before you to that effect, yes.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for that, or any other discussion beforehand?
So looks reasonable.
Okay. Second. Now, you take a roll call, is that correct?
Yes. Tom?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Quinn?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Dee?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
And Al?
Yes. Okay, all right, guess we're set then. All right, we're done? Okay, folks, we're good. Thank you.
John, what's their next step? They just need to provide a stamped plat?
Okay, next, Dandy Mart. Do we have anyone here from Dandy Mart?
I can speak to that, Al. We don't have anybody here from Dandy Mart tonight, but I can explain what's happening with that application to the board. Dandy Mart, as part of their site plan review, submitted sign details as requested. They're going to need a number of variances. The sign code, in essence, allows for, I think it was 2 business signs, 48 square feet. They are asking for more than that. So they'll have to go to the zoning board of appeals, okay? However, since both site plan review and variances require seeker, we're going to have to coordinate that review. So they've made an application to the zoning board of appeals. They've filed a building permit. Scott's denied it. They've made an application to the ZBA. This board tonight has a resolution in front of it to basically amend your prior resolution, finding yourselves as lead agency, okay? And informing the zoning board of appeals that they are now an involved agency, meaning that they have a discretionary decision to make, all right? The zoning board of appeals will see that at their next meeting and see the application and they'll discuss it, and then they will notify you whether or not they disagree with your being lead agency or concur with that, all right? So that's kind of the first step. After that, hopefully they'll make some comments on any environmental issues that they see with the project in regards to the variances in front of them, coordinating the seeker review, right? They're gonna make comments regarding that. Back to you folks, and you can incorporate all of that into your seeker determination. Back to the zoning board of appeals again for a decision. And once the decision has been made regarding the signage, it will then come back to this board to decide the entire site plan. So
Okay.
that's it in a nutshell. It's kind of project ping pong.
I get it.
Okay, so tonight, all you're doing is informing the zoning board of appeals that they're involved, the agency. The package that you have in front of you from Dandy is basically the application that they made to the zoning board of appeals, just so you can see it. If you'd like to make some comments on that, you could do so. But understanding that it could just be comments, the zoning board of appeals isn't bound by anything you said, they will still have to apply the standard criteria for area variances to their decision.
One quick question, John, on this page 25 that we have, purpose of request. It says, property's corner location will have 2 main entrances. Then the next paragraph down, it says, unique construction consisting of 3 main entrances.
2 main entrances to the site and 3 on the building, right?
That's what I put as.
Oh, okay, all right, I missed that, I got you.
And that's special this time around.
I got you, okay. So my question to the board is, did you want to discuss the signage, and do you want to make a recommendation to the plan, or to the zoning board concerning the signage, whether is it excessive, or is it incompatible? Personally, I don't think it's excessive. I do think it's compatible to the site, but I'm open for discussion, so go ahead, Lynn.
They brought up the application of Great Petroleum up the street here with the Maravido, and it doesn't seem that far out of line with that. The ZBA may have other feelings. but
Right.
It seems reasonable.
Well, I objected to that, because the Maravito site is quite different from this site. I mean, this site has one of the landmarks of Lansing. And I think we have to take a special care to protect the look of that corner field. And I think there's a lot of illumination. And I'm not sure that Dandy's business model should be directing what we do with the site plan.
Well, I mean, there's a balance between the protection, the interest of the residents and the community and the site, and the business plan of the store, and we've got to balance that. What do you think is excessive, Deb? Do you think it's the signage over on the side of the building, or?
Yeah, a lot of that stuff. Oh, yeah, we got a restaurant, we got a cafe, we got a deli, we got this, we got that. I don't know if they need to be illuminated. I was driving up here and looking at the signs in the window on Rose Harbor. If they could have something that looked kind of like neon, that would fit with the period of the area. That might be better, but then these big standard plastic illuminated signs, I think, are unappealing.
Okay.
I really don't like the red, and I think I've said that before.
Yeah,
I really don't.
well, I mean, their response is that's their business model, red is their business, and I don't
understand.
think we
It's a
can,
corporate color,
I understand.
more to the point.
and I mean, to me, it's not overwhelming. I mean, there is brick on the outside, stone, you have the awnings over the window, you do have that red Dandy. I
Just
guess-
a lot of red. It's a lot of red. I mean, considering that McDonald's could build a site in Maine and have no signage. So I'm not sure that the Dandy rationale is Dandy.
I mean, one of the things I've mentioned is that there are 3 entrances, and the sign law, I don't think really takes that into consideration. I think when the law was drafted, the idea was probably 1 main entrance, and there are 3 entrances on this, and that was done to satisfy the planning board's concern about safety, both traffic and pedestrian. So I think, you've got to take that into consideration, and the use of the site is multi-use. It's not just one building and one use. We do have a restaurant, we do have groceries, and we do have fuel dispensary. So, it is multi-use, so I can see the need to highlight that. So do we want to just leave it in the zoning board's hands? Do we want to make a recommendation to maybe lower or reduce the number or the size of the signs? Go ahead, folks.
I've got a couple of questions.
Yep.
The pedestals, are those being included in the square footage for the signage?
I believe it's just the signage itself.
You mean on the building? Is that what you're saying,
No,
Joe?
if you look at the monument
The
sign.
monument sign?
Yeah,
So you've got
I think they included the whole size of the monument, because they're quoting, what, 556 square feet?
Yeah, if you look on page 40, it has the listing.
Yeah, it seems to me that as you look at the Dandy logo, which is pretty darn big, so on the monument signs, it's a 6-foot diameter, on the building, it's a 7-foot diameter. So now we're talking about, 2 6-foot diameter and 3 7-foot diameter Dandy signs. I think that's way over the top.
Here's a thing, because I kind of agree with both Deb and you. Suppose they kept their round sign on the front and then moved the 2 smaller descriptive signs over the canopies. The pizza, cafe, instead of putting it on the side of the building, putting that where the circles are on the canopy. That cuts it down a little bit, and then they still have their big thing in the front. But I would also say that even if it's not appropriate for us to make any recommendations to the zoning board, we could note to the zoning board that up to this point, they've already made a lot of changes and reduction in the amount of signs based on what they presented us with to begin with.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's no striping or lettering on any of the canopies. What else did we have? I forgot what else we did.
Myself, I'd be pretty happy if they did reduce the signage on the two sides.
So the kind of the consensus is that diameter over the doors, the planning board would like to possibly see that reduced somewhat in diameter?
Or either reduced or replaced with where they have the long sign that says Pizza Deli Cafe.
Okay.
Put that up there instead.
Sure, or even just the word dandy there as opposed to a 7-foot diameter. You've already got 2 at the road. I think that a 6-foot diameter is pretty darn big at the road as well.
Yeah.
I see that they
You
only
leave the one
have
on the front though, right?
On page 38, I mean, they only have one entrance monument sign shown. They don't really show what the other one's going to look like at the other entrance. So yeah, I think it's major overkill.
I mean, 6 foot, that's
It's huge.
taller than most people. I mean, I don't.
And 7-foot's even.
Could I make a suggestion to the board?
Sure.
Okay. So the town of Lansing has a sign regulation, as I explained, and the zoning board of appeals' job is to evaluate the application to vary from the law, okay? Part of the 5 balancing questions for the zoning board of appeals, if you've ever served on it, they need to issue the minimum amount of variance that they feel is possible to grant the applicant relief, okay? So I think it would be entirely appropriate for this board to say that you feel that it's, very important that the site be sensitive to, the adjacent historic site, or given its position as a, as a gateway parcel to the community, the signage would be appropriate to the context. Those sorts of generalized comments, I think that this board should probably refrain from telling the ZBA what amount of variance it should give.
Okay, all right.
They need to evaluate that on the merits of the application as they see fit. So,
Okay, I would state for the record on our minutes that the monument signs they're asking for at the two entrances are not out of line with monuments for similar businesses I've seen in areas of the country where this sort of thing is controlled pretty strictly, where towns and villages even have architectural control over site plan review, which we don't here.
Okay.
But those, the monuments at the entrances are completely in line and probably a little more subdued than some I've seen in Virginia, in Tennessee, places like that.
Okay. So rest of you, you're okay with John's recommendation, just being conscientious of the community and the adjacent properties and coming up with a determination? And that's as far as we'll take it, probably, correct, folks? You okay with that? All right, so then we've got to do a motion for this resolution, correct?
yes.
So I'll entertain a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Heather, you gonna, go ahead.
Sandy,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
sorry, I'm in here. Larry,
Yes?
Dean,
Yes.
Deb,
Was that me? Yes.
and Al.
Yes, okay. So I think that's it for the Dandy Mart tonight, is that correct?
That's
John?
correct. Yep.
Okay.
So we'll go to the zoning board of appeals now, and you're basically petitioning to be lead agency again, all right?
So our comments to the zoning board of appeal, that will be the next round?
They'll get your comments.
Okay.
Now, I have a question, John. They can choose not to accept shared agency, right?
They could, sure. What they could do is say that they want to be lead agency, and then it would go to the commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation to make that decision. I don't foresee that happening, Larry. Not, the commissioner of the DEC would make the decision as to who was lead agency. I should clarify that, but if there's a dispute between who accepts lead agency, the commissioner of DEC makes the decision over who takes lead agency, so.
That's Lansing. What do you say?
Okay, let's move on, folks. Okay, we're next up is Village Solars. Who wants to? All right, can you guys name and your relationship for the people that are out there, please?
Yeah, I'm Rocco Sang, I'm the developer of Village Solars.
Edward Crossform, the attorney for the applicant.
Okay.
Just plain Jim.
Okay, Rocco, you want to give us an idea what's going on and what you're looking for?
Yeah, so we were looking to have a resolution change, and actually, I looked at the resolution today, the change that we had requested was not the same as the one that ended up in the resolution. We were hoping to have everything but the SWIP moved to conditions of approval of the certificate of occupancy, and have the SWIP just remain as the issue for the building permit. Somehow it got put in there that the site plan is the one that was in the resolution, but we were hoping for the SWIP, and that's just to hopefully bring this all to a close. It's been quite a tumultuous process, and we're trying to get building as quick as we can.
So I guess I don't follow. Why do you want to do it? Why do you want it contingent on the building permit as opposed to the process that we've already decided?
Well, what we're asking for is to reduce that process from the site plan and the SWIP to adjust the SWIP. And the reason being that the issues that are currently pertinent on the site plan, and I'll let Tim get into this a little bit more, but they're really wholly irrelevant to the buildings themselves. And
What's that, I'm sorry, did you say?
they're wholly irrelevant to
Irrelevant.
the specific buildings on the south end, the issues that we have been working through with Don Harner, which he has the paperwork right now. I've been told that I think we're close to getting it resolved. You know, we've thought that for a couple of months now, and honestly, we've gotten new requirements a couple of times that weren't in prior lists, and we come back, came due in September, and here we are in December, and we're still kind of going through this, even though the last resolution was supposed to expedite this process. So, we're kind of hoping that by cutting out anything that's not directly related to these buildings and making it contingent on the certificate of occupancy, we can save our construction schedule to the extent that we can, and try to maintain these guys' jobs.
Do you want to expand a little more?
Add to that, the two buildings we really want to try to get going are on the south end of the project and don't even drain to the north part of the project, where I think there's some of the questions Scotty had about the diversion structure that's off-site. So I think we've got the plans, and I don't know, you talked to Donnie, I haven't, I've sent him a couple of emails, he's working on it, but I think we're close with Donnie too.
So the existing one is not located on your controlled area, is that correct?
Right, and I talked to Larry over the weekend from Rowan, previous engineer. He indicated to me that that pond down there wasn't supposed to be, the bioswale wasn't supposed to be done until the second building was constructed, because they tore down the building to build a new one.
Can you point up on the map
Yeah.
where?
I can't even
Is this area here, right?
Right, yeah. It's,
So
it was a long bioswale that was supposed to.
where's the water tower? I'm trying to get my
Water
bearings.
tower's right here.
Okay,
All right, and this is Rocco Senior's.
Right,
project.
okay.
They tore down a building, and they had another building slated to be right in here.
okay.
And what happened is, they asked, and they never built it, and that building was supposed to be taken care of by the bioswale down here, according to Larry Fabroni. And the condition was this get built when that second building gets built on the property, because this building replaced the building, the parking was already there.
So your concern is that your building to the left of that,
We're building these two buildings here, primarily.
has that started yet? Have they started?
They've done some excavating and site work, but not.
Okay.
We've done everything that we can do up to what the building inspector can inspect. So we can't pour concrete, we can't, we can basically excavate the site out.
And so the stormwater is located at the bottom right there to the right, but that's not on your site, is that what you're saying?
No, this is all on our site.
Okay.
We're all good here.
So where's
One of
the,
the things that came up was they wanted us to build the leftover pond on this site that we don't even own.
who they,
The planning board.
really?
And Donnie, yeah.
Yeah, as part of the resolution, we had two bioretention ponds, one on the north end and then this one.
Weren't those on what was submitted to us?
Yes. Way a long time ago, yeah. Not part of this.
This is part of your.
Well,
It's part of your-
Yeah, it was on our site plan, it's being here.
Not the one you.
John, you want to expand? Can you help us on it? We're all still confused a little bit.
Sure, so,
Put that on the-
Hold on.
let me, feel free to jump in if
Yeah.
okay? But the original resolution in September of this year, we conditioned some things upon issue, prior to a building permit being issued. I'll go through those in just a second, but that's what Mr. Lucenti is basically asking for relief from, because he'd like to start the construction of these two buildings. He can excavate, like he said, but he can't pour foundations. We can't issue a building permit until the conditions of the site plan have been met. So, one of the things that we asked for, A, was a final site plan incorporating all the changes from the planning board, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the actual set of drawings of what this board approved, okay? The second thing is that we ask for compliance with all current and future recommendations of the town's engineer. According to my conversations with Dondi and the letter that he included on the package, I believe that that has been resolved. All of the engineering issues have been resolved, okay? Bioretention Area 1 on Lot 41, that's been constructed.
It's up in the northwest corner.
Right.
That is it.
What we're speaking about right now is bioretention area number 2, which was approved at a prior phase of this development, but was never constructed. That's on lot 39. And that's this area that Mr. Buell was just talking about. So Rocco would like to, he doesn't control that site any longer and is not able to construct that. Go ahead, Larry.
Bioretention area number 2 isn't even included in that letter that Rocco wrote requesting relief.
Right, well, I took that out, when I wrote the letter, they asked me to write specifically what changes I wanted made, so I took that out specifically because that was one of the changes I wanted made, knowing that we were going to discuss it and, you know, the reasons why that would be.
It is part of the resolution of approval, so you are seeking relief from that, though, just to clarify.
Yes, to clarify, I am. It's just that when I was writing the letter, I was under the impression I was supposed to write specifically what I wanted in the new resolution.
I
That's what I
understand.
was saying.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so I guess I'm still, so originally there was going to be an area there. Now there's not going to be an area there, but the town's engineers are okay with it? Is that?
The area is still there to do a swale, but it was supposed to serve the second building in that lot 39 that was going to build.
Right, it is not instrumental to the overall functioning of the new phases of development. So if and when a time comes to build the second building on that lot, then we can then trigger the construction of that stormwater facility.
So you're only building one building right now? That's all you're asking for relief, permission for?
We want 2 buildings on the lot we own, which are shown on the drawing.
Okay.
And the biostructure is 2.
They'd like to construct these 2 buildings.
Right.
This is the lot that had another bioretention area on it from a previous phase that they do not control this site.
Right.
Okay? It's approved for a second building, so from what I understand. And so if and when that is constructed, then they can build, the owner can build at that point in time. Okay? It's self-sufficient. It's not going into the rest of the overall stormwater.
And none of our stuff is impacted by this. We don't need that to take care of our own. It's part of our own.
So John,
Yeah.
the issue with the practice on the south side, I'm still confused. It's, you know, just said that the practice on the south side can be built when the landscaping is done, right?
No.
Or,
No.
The Setting Holdings don't own that lot.
I'm not talking about that lot, Tim. I'm talking about the one over here where you're building the 2 buildings.
Yes, we're doing that.
And you're doing that practice there as well? Then what's the issue?
They asked us to do this one too.
The issue was, it was included originally, but now it no longer applies. So we need to make the change to make it no longer
The
apply.
resolution says we've got to do something with that, but we can't.
Because that second bioretention area is now required for the development that they're producing. I believe what it comes down to.
So what was the subject to of the building permits then? Why?
All of the things that I've just explained were subject to prior to a building permit, because it was part of a previous phase.
Okay.
And, you know, before we started another phase, we wanted to see everything be constructed.
That was kind of a cleanup in aisle 7 type thing.
Yep.
That's right.
So if the buildings are built, will a occupancy be issued still, or will that be contingent on something
There
else?
are other things that are contingent upon COO.
Which are,
Well, let me finish going through the.
okay.
Okay, so another item, condition of approval, D, was acceptance of a final stormwater pollution prevention plan. That's been satisfied now as well, so that was something that you were looking for relief from. In the meantime, that's been satisfied, so long story short is most of the criteria have been satisfied. We asked the applicant to get water permits. He's facilitating that right now. He's taking some action on that. I think the only thing that you don't want to do at this point in time is give us a final site plan. right? But we really need that, Rocco, in order for us to be able to see and issue building permits. We need to know finally how the whole site is going to be. Scott needs to be able to compare what's been approved versus what you're applying for. But it sounds to me like you're there. That's what,
I think we are.
you know, like, it sounds like you're there.
I've added all the notes that he asked for, and
Yeah.
about the sewer and water services and things, so.
So there shouldn't really be anything left outstanding preventing you from having a final print copy of your site plan.
So if I get a final print copy, are we able to have,
As long as it is what has been discussed between yourselves and Dondi and incorporates anything that this board had asked for, which the board didn't really ask for a lot of changes during your review. It mostly came down to engineering issues. Okay, so as long as all of the pipe elevations and grading elevations and all of those things that you guys work through are represented on that plan, there should be no issue with having the planning board chairman sign it.
Okay, so I can have those plans drawn up tomorrow morning. Would you be available to do that? Either of you, both of you?
We'll be able to take a look at it and make sure they all match up, and I'll try to have that review done. This is an odd thing to commit to in a meeting, Rocco, so I'd like you to understand.
Yeah.
All right, we'll try to expedite that. I mean, we're talking a week before Christmas, but
I think you have the PDF copies of the SWIP and final site plan already.
it's just the final, if you have final plans,
I don't have any new since what that was submitted, so.
all right.
Yeah, our belief is that everything that is on there is what he requested, and that should be final. One draft.
And we went back and forth with that on the central part. We get that fixed.
Yeah.
So, item A there, that is the wording that you wanted removed, or that's the wording you want it to read?
So,
We wanted that removed.
Okay, but that isn't in the plan. The one that's in the plan refers to the building permits. This one refers to only the certificate of compliance, which would seem to be in your favor.
We wanted that removed as far as it was a precondition to the building permit. That was our request.
Yes, and my response to that, to this board is how can you issue a building permit without a final site plan that's been agreed upon and reviewed, that what is approved is what's going to be built? How can the code enforcement officer with any reliability say this is going where it's supposed to go at the size that it's supposed to be at without a final plan?
Well, let me suggest that you can do that if the contractor, if the owner is willing to take the risk of having to redo some work. We are willing to take that risk.
I wouldn't recommend that myself.
I think we need legal counsel on something like that. What do you guys think?
I would agree with you.
Well, one of the first things I learned in construction a couple of years back was if it ain't written down, it never happened. And I'm still looking at two different wordings of the same paragraph that, you know, to me, the one would appear to be in the favor of the developer, the one that refers just to not issuing a certificate of compliance until the site plan was done, and the one that's, and supposedly that was done referring to the paragraph in the resolution that says no building permit shall be issued without, no building permit, not certificate of compliance, shall be issued without final site plans. So that is a little bit confusing to me. Which one do you want? If it just mentioned the certificate of compliance, that would seem to me it would be okay to go ahead. But in the resolution it says building permit.
In the draft resolution?
In the draft resolution it says.
That's because I drafted that resolution.
Yeah, well, and I've got nothing against that.
Okay.
But if it had been issuance of a certificate of compliance, otherwise known as a certificate of occupancy, was contingent on completion of the site plan, then I can see where they could go ahead and build, or get a building permit, and just couldn't occupy or rent out the building until the site plan was complete.
I mean, unless I'm wrong, that's what they're.
That's what we're requesting. And our position is that the town would have sufficient control over this development if the condition of final site plan approval was the condition for issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Again, with us taking, on the record, we understand there's a risk, there's a financial risk. We are willing to take that financial risk.
But you said you were willing to produce a site plan tomorrow, right?
The site plan we have, I mean, I haven't gotten anything formal back from Donnie yet, but we've had several conversations, and we've had some with him also. I think we're 98% there.
So if you're willing to do the site plan, then I guess I don't follow where the problem is.
There probably isn't one.
There probably isn't one.
We've been back and forth so many times, and we're just
Just to
trying
be
to.
candid, we thought that we had satisfied Donnie's requirements so many times at this point that we had lost confidence in, they promised that after review, we got it all done. And that's, it's unfortunate. Frankly, it's never happened in our history of working with the town. It might be something that, once all this is said and done, and I want to talk about and review about how the process went in that regard. But that's the fundamental issue, is that we, on numerous occasions, thought that we had things satisfied and got requirements and new items back that frankly weren't on previous lists.
Okay, so again,
What do you think the chances are that we can get, that the town can get something from the engineer that says, yeah, everything is fine? I mean, if he's told you verbally that it's okay, why can't we have a piece of paper?
That says that everything's okay.
Yeah,
That's what your final site plan would be, right? We would have paper plans, we'd look at them, say, yeah, these all match up, and, that's how that process works.
theoretically, yes, but in the past, what's held us up from being able to do that would be a letter from the town engineer saying, well, I want to see this, 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 and this. And it's happened several times over the course of this project. And all I'm saying is, somebody throw it on the red flag for review or something, because it's time, if he says that everything is okay, why can't we have a letter that says that so we can match up the site plan and say, okay, everything is good?
So that's what would happen, Larry, is that the final site plans would be submitted, drafted, whatever, right? And Donnie would just be comparing those final plans with the numerous discussions they had and say, yeah, everything we talked about is on there. That's literally what would happen. That's how final plan submission and review happens.
so if they produce a plan tomorrow, the next day, whatever, it gets over to the town's engineer, it gets to Scott, everybody is good with it, what do you need from us as a board then?
If everybody is good with it, I need nothing from the board. I would just need your signature, Al. That's it. This board has already approved the project conditionally, as it was submitted. And they've worked through the engineering issues. So it's just making sure that everything lines up, making sure that the drawings match the conversations, making sure that the drawings match the engineering work. And then we'd say, hey, Al, these are final plans, they're ready to go, they're just like you all talked about, please sign them.
So, Dean, do you have any, or
Do
Larry?
we need a provision in connection with the second retention pond, that is no longer reconditioned?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We would need to amend the resolution to reflect that. And I am comfortable with that.
And how, would we do that tonight?
Yes.
So we would make a motion, how would that be worded essentially then?
So if we're on the same page, folks, my draft resolution that I forwarded to you basically retains that we're still looking for a final site plan. And that's really and it's still the water permits. before, you'll have those.
He can't get the water permits, he can't.
So we have the building permit.
Okay, so we can move that,
So that's C.
yes.
So what about C?
C would have to be moved.
To certificate of occupancy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Which would be natural anyway, because before Scott issued a building permit, or a certificate of occupancy. they have to
Gotta have water and sewer. Yep.
That's no problem. So, other than that change,
We would need to then.
How
add
is that gonna read once you change it?
it would read the following conditions must be satisfied before issuance of any building permit.
A,
The
B.
final site plan incorporating all recommended changes from the planning board and the town engineer shall be submitted to the signature of the chair of the planning board. Within 180 days of this approval, no building permits will be issued prior to the signing of the final site plan. And then it just goes into building permits are required to construct approved buildings and site facilities. We would move condition C, the applicant will be required to obtain Bowling Point water permits and consolidated water district mains and sewer down to the following conditions must be satisfied before issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
And then we would add an item 4, which is to remove the second bioretention from the site plan, correct?
Yes, it'd probably be good to explicitly say that.
Okay, so are you folks okay with what was just described?
Yeah, I think that, as long as, you said, obviously, here on the record in a public meeting, that all the engineering concerns with the site plan have been taken care of. So it sounds like if we get that same site plan that you proposed, it should be signed off on, and it should be good. So, yeah, I think that we're okay with that. I think we're good.
Board members, are you okay with what we just described? Anyone have a concern? And John, are you okay with what we just described?
I am. As I mentioned before, they've met nearly all of their conditions to this point now. So the last and final one was removing that bioretention area, which they don't have control over the site. I understand that.
Okay.
I think we've come to an understanding about the final site plan. Okay.
So, John, so that item 2C becomes item 2, I guess the third section, L. You can put it at the end.
Sure.
And then we're going to add item number 4, which is remove the requirement for bioretention area number 2.
Yes.
And you'll put in there whatever reference is required for that.
That's correct.
So that would be the resolution that I would put forward.
I'd second that.
So we got Dean and Larry second it?
Yep.
And I guess Heather, you got to take a call on this?
Tom?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yeah.
Sandy?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
And Al?
Yes. Okay, hopefully everybody's happy.
Yeah, thank you folks so much, like the site plan tomorrow.
Okay, you'll give me a shout when everybody's approved it and looked it over, and I'll come up and sign it.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Sounds like Tim better get some coffee.
Some more.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, board members, tonight? Heather? We're okay?
Do we all get our training done?
I've been slacking on that because I've been in training.
Oh,
Okay, I guess, motion to adjourn, I guess.
So moved.
Okay, thank you all.
happy holidays.
Have a nice holiday, everyone.
For some reason, I
Merry
like to
Christmas,
do long
everybody.
meeting. I'm always
Thank
long.
you,
Whenever I
folks.
say long meeting,